Welcome to my podcast, Survivor Not by Chance. Thank you for joining and listening. As I say in every podcast, I am not a licensed therapist, psychologist. I am not a licensed medical professional. Any information that I do provide in this podcast is simply my story, and I'm just telling just parts of myself and information that I've learned to help me cope with my childhood trauma. So this was difficult trying to come together what I was going to talk about for this podcast, and I was tossing back and forth. I didn't really know what I was going to speak about, but it's something that has been on my mind for a while, and I want to just go forward and speak about energy and positive thinking opposed to negative energy and negative thinking. So I have been meditating a lot, as I told you guys before in previous podcasts, and I have a meditation app on my phone, and I also have a app to give me positive quotes. And I have this quote that I read, and it's by a Chinese philosopher. More than likely, I may not pronounce his name correctly. My pronunciation is not the best, especially when it comes to names, so I apologize in advance. But the philosopher's name is Laozi. It's spelled capital Lao, then it's a space, capital TZU. And I know I pronounced it wrong, but I apologize. But basically, the quote that I have it states, "The simple truth is, you are your own master. Your actions are your reality." And I absolutely know that to be true. There were specific times in my life when I had a negative mindset. Everything I felt was going to be wrong, or I thought nothing was going to work out right for me. I was always thinking negative, and as much as I thought negative continued to happen. Say, for example, I remember it was a time where I was in a financial situation and I just couldn't see how I was going to get out of it. And I just kept beating myself up about it, beating myself up. And it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. And, you know, every now and again, I believe God sends certain people in your lives to show you that, you know, your situation's not as bad as you think it is. It could always be worse. So I would have people who would come in and give me positive inspiration and just remind me that it's all about how you think. You know, there's life and death in the power of your tongue. And I absolutely believe that. So majority of my life, I can honestly say I have had a positive mindset. When I was in elementary school and high school, my positive goal, my positive energy came from me wanting to go to college and knowing that if I went to college, I would make it out of the hood. So I continued to just push hard and do well in school and continue to say, I got to go to college. I got to go to college. I have to get a scholarship. I have to get a scholarship. So I continue to do that. And that's what really helped me get out of high school and get into college. And then once I did get into college, it was like, oh, wow, this is completely different than what I thought it would be. And my energy shifted. and my energy changed, and it became a little bit more doubtful and negative because I was experiencing things that I wasn't used to. I was used to school coming easy to me because when I did go to school, the schools that I was in, they weren't challenging enough for me, and I excuse me, was I realized that the education system that I was in, and during that time, they weren't teaching me what I needed to know for the real world. So college was really a culture shock for me, and I started to downward spiral, and basically I lost all of the positive values that I had. And I had some negative things happening in my life at that time. I was literally on my own for the first time in my life. I had no one to fall back on. I didn't have a home I can go to. I didn't have, a mom or a dad that I can call. All I had was a few friends that I started to learn while I was in college, and I tried to lean on them for support, but it wasn't enough because I didn't have the foundation I needed. So I started to get my energy back and my positive energy back when I enrolled in counseling when I was in college. That was the first time that I actually uh, realized that I needed help, and I started to speak about my story in my life, but it was on a one-on-one basis. And the counselor said to me, "You've done an amazing job of raising yourself. Do you realize how much you've accomplished? You have a lot to be proud of." And I think that's when I started to realize, wow, I am doing something good. Even though I was failing my classes, I felt like a failure. But just for her to say that to me actually brought back what I needed, that boost. So I honestly believe that whenever you have certain people in your atmosphere, their energy can transmit onto you. Their negative energy can transmit onto you. Their positive energy can transmit onto you. Anytime had friends or people in my circle that was always complaining, always had something negative to say about someone, always found something wrong with someone, I started to pick up those same patterns and behaviors. And as a result, I started to portray those same things. And when I had positive people in my life and I had people giving me positive feedback, I started to realize that I had a positive demeanor and a positive outlook on life. So during this journey that I'm on, it's been about maybe 3 months, I would say, because I didn't start it initially in the beginning of the year. It wasn't my intent to start a inner healing journey this year. I don't do New Year's resolutions. It's something I don't believe in. I only believe in every day is a new day, and if you're going to start something new, then you start it today and you move forward, not because it's a new year, not because it's a new month, not because you're in a new relationship, but because you're doing it for yourself. So ever since I've started this new journey, I've been reevaluating the people that I have in my life. And every couple of years or so I do this, but I really decided to do this in more depth this year. Not even just this year, but this time around, because I realized I had energy drainers. People who I would have conversations with, and the conversations would always be about them. and they always needed advice. They always wanted to know, well, how can I do this? How can I do that? Or the conversation would be, well, this is the complaint, and this is the complaint I've had for 5 years, and I'm going to continue to complain about this situation for 5 years, and you're going to listen, and you're required to listen, and you're required to give me advice, and you're required to give me your energy, and you're required to allow me to dump my baggage on you. Once I realized I was in a place where I needed to get energy, positive energy from others, opposed to me always giving positive energy, and I started to speak out and say, I need support as well. Then that's when I started to see the disbursement of people basically lashing out at me because I wanted to receive the positive energy that I was putting out there. This is how you're going to know when you have true friends and people who are really in your corner. When you shut yourself down to heal, or when you shut yourself down to hear and be intuitive within yourself, and you start to see people for who they really are, and they no longer reach out to you just to check on you to make sure you're okay, but they're reaching out to you to dump their baggage on you. And when you start to say no, and you start to say, I will no longer allow you to deposit negative energy, negative concepts, negative talk into my life, then those people will start to become angry. They will try to disrupt your inner peace, and then they will try to do certain things to make you look as if you're the perpetrator and they're the victim. So I think that we have to be very careful in regards to who we allow in our atmospheres. What you speak into this atmosphere and what you say into the world comes back to your life. A lot of people may say, oh, well, I can never do such and such, or I won't do. Those negative words can affect your life. I remember when I was in high school and I kept saying I needed to get a scholarship. And then I changed saying I needed to get a scholarship, and I kept saying I will get a scholarship to college. I will get a full scholarship to college. And I continued to say it for months on top of months on top of months. And I didn't even see it. I didn't have not one college scholarship. I think it was maybe April. And I was supposed to start college in July because I had to go to the Equal Opportunity Program. Best decision ever made. Thank goodness. I was so grateful for that program. But I just kept saying it and kept saying it, and I didn't see it. It wasn't coming. And so right before graduation in June, I would say a few weeks before graduation, the scholarships started to come in. One by one, to the point where I literally didn't have to worry about school. I didn't have to worry about paying for college, living on campus. It was all paid for. So, that's a prime example of me speaking positive into myself, not allowing someone else to do it for me, but me speaking it into myself. And it actually worked. So I take positive speaking and energy as an absolute necessity. If you don't speak into yourself and you don't speak positivity into yourself, guess what? No one's